Sometimes you have to take the hit, which means allow things not to be perfect. And if things have to be perfect for you, you're setting yourself up to only exist in a very square box. And if things don't perfectly fit into that square box, you crumble and you destroy everything around you. So sometimes you have to just allow things to be a little messier than they are. Hey everyone, welcome to the Rising Father Podcast. I'm Chris Rodak. Today's episode is with my wife, Sara.
Hello.
We just had our 18-year date anniversary. We both posted about it on social media. Some people were saying, oh my goodness, congratulations. Other people were saying, can't believe you went that long. Other people were asking for some advice.
Yeah.
What were some of the responses you got?
So yeah, we posted this really cute picture that popped up in Facebook Memories. It was one of our first pictures of us dating in college. Super cute. And I put kind of a side-by-side of our current picture. And I just really posted it because I couldn't believe it's been 18 years. And got lots of really cute responses like, oh my gosh, you guys look the same as you did 18 years ago. Or that's amazing. I remember when you started dating. And then we got many responses that were, wow, 18 years, that's amazing. Congratulations. I don't know if I could make it that long with my current spouse. Also ones that were, I don't know how you made it that long. I never could have made it 18 years with my ex, or, kind of comments like that. And some people asking in a nice way, like 18 years, I hope we can get there. Give us some advice on how you made it.
Yeah. So how do we make it? What's the advice?
I mean, so easy. But no, I mean, really, I think the biggest thing is respecting each other and communicating.
What do you mean by respecting? Like, how do we respect each other?
In tons of ways. Really, I think the one thing that you have to remember is when you've been with somebody for so long, you know how to piss each other off. You know how to avoid doing that. And I think sometimes there's a lot of people who selfishly just want to win every argument, that they focus so much on knowing what gets under their significant other's skin, and it gives them some sort of really short-lived joy that they are like, yeah, I got you. And I get that sometimes, but like really when you want your relationship to last, you learn to respect each other in, understanding when something is not going to go well, or how you handle each other's feelings, even if you are disagreeing at the time. And that's a really big form of respect that I think a lot of people don't do.
Is what? Say it one more time.
Like being able to, when maybe you disagree on something.
Disagree and be okay with it?
Yeah, or know how to handle it. Like know how to talk through disagreements.
Without being a jerk.
Yeah, or without pissing each other off on purpose to try to like, quote unquote, win an argument. Why
do people do that? Did they get their feelings hurt? Like if you imagine a couple who's having an argument, which we've done this before.
Oh, yeah.
We're not perfect. But if someone has an argument and they're raising their voice, they're getting upset, and then it turns away from the thing they're arguing about, and they start to get personal and attack. Like what causes that to happen? What causes it to go to the next level?
I think it's that they don't communicate on a day-to-day basis. I think a lot of people hold things in because they don't want to deal with it at that time, and then they form resentment, and then they explode.
It's like the daily communication that needs to happen is held inside.
Yes.
And then when there's an actual problem or something that needs to be talked about, they just kind of unload.
Yes. That's what I think happens a lot. And then whenever that is happening, you're kind of in that like crazy state in your mind where you can't think clearly, and then everything's blown out of proportion, and it can either happen with both of you, or one of you is calm and the other one's feels like they're going crazy, that the other person's not understanding. And I think that a lot of people don't know how to get past that or work with communicating, and then it can cause a lot of problems down the road.
Yeah. What are some of the things, it's like me interviewing you.
I know.
What are some of the issues that come up? Like, what are some of the topics that you've seen couples like really blow up about? Like, what's a common thing that maybe if you're listening and you're a couple, you're like, oh yeah, we fight about that and we shouldn't?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I hear a lot more from the women's perspective.
Well, let's get it.
The number one thing I think I hear women complain about is that their husband doesn't pitch in, and they feel like they have the weight of their family on them all the time, especially their kids. Like, they do everything for their kids, everything in the house, cleaning, the chores, but
guys are providing and making all the money. But then I know I can hear a guy thinking that.
Yeah, but meanwhile, a lot of times in the real...
Hold on. Let's say you're a guy, you're making $1 million a year, and your wife's a stay-at-home wife, and the wife thinks this way, and the guy thinks that way. Go.
Okay, I think we need to pause and realize that it's 2024, and that's probably 1% of people that are a stay-at-home wife.
Like, that's the mindset of some people. So what if it was?
I feel like if that is their real mindset, they're kind of, I don't like them. They're kind of a dick, to be honest with you. But if but
that's the mindset is of a guy who refuses to pitch in and help. If the wife's like a stay-at-home mom and he's working, it's that, well, I'm providing, that's my job, this is your job.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to look at if you're thinking that way.
Rusty's crapping his pants behind us. God, he's farted so bad.
That's our dog, if you don't know who that is. It's not a kid, don't worry.
No.
But, I mean, if that's truly someone's thinking, I understand that usually there is somebody who provides more monetarily for the family, and that's super important and helps your family out. But you also, Rusty, you also have to realize too that if, let's say this is like the actual example that you just said, if the husband thinks that he doesn't have to do anything around the house or raise the kids, that's going to cause like a huge problem for generations to come, because the kids are watching that dad provides, but he's like not interacting with us, not helping us, not taking responsibility around the house. So like they grow up thinking mom does everything in the house, dad works. And even if that doesn't feel that way, that's probably how a child is going to perceive it. However, yes, it's important that they are providing, and if that is the situation, it's what is the work hours? During those work hours, if you are a stay-at-home mom, usually during those hours you're working too. And when your husband is done, quote unquote, working, just like if you're at an office job from 8 to 5 or whatever it is, in that evening you're doing things together as a family. And that also might mean that even though you are a stay-at-home mom, you might not have got the dishes done because you might have infants. And that's not always realistic that you have time to do that, because you're doing lots of other things throughout the day, or maybe together you do the dishes and your kids see that you guys are doing things together. I also think it's important to, whenever there are these, and I've talked to women about this, I feel like I'm going all over because my mind is going 1,000 miles a minute with this specific example. I truly feel like that's not the best example, because in 2024, it is highly unlikely that someone is a stay-at-home mom and the husband brings in all the dough.
I know. I'm giving an exaggeration to amplify the mentality of the guy.
I get that. But I really do think, too, that like in our real life situations, if we like bring it back from not being exaggerated, a lot.
All right. Let's say there's a guy who makes $70,000 and a woman who makes $50,000.
Yeah.
And they're both working full-time jobs?
Both working full-time jobs with kids.
They wearing sweatpants?
Why are they in sweatpants?
I'm trying to make it realistic. So they're both working, they're both living at home. And then, so you're saying the situation you've encountered is both people have a full-time job.
Correct.
And then the wife also does everything.
Yes.
Then what does the husband do?
Kind of just I think probably grew up in the
What
life.
are they actually doing? Like whenever I got to find these people. So both people work 9 to 5s, let's say. They both come home. The kids come home. And then the wife starts to cook and clean and do everything. What does the husband do?
Like hang out on the couch. There's going to be a lot of people that resonate with that because they either grew up that way where their dad was the one sitting on the couch. And I think times have changed a little bit since that used to kind of be the norm with husband and wife duties and responsibilities. But I also think a lot of people will say, actually, that's how I feel. I do think, though, that there is a problem with on the woman side that a lot of women are so specific about how they want things done that in their mind it's, if I want it done the right way, I'll just do it myself. And that happens over time so much that I think sometimes if you were interviewing a couple like this, the husband would probably say, I try to help, but then
I get yelled at.
Or I didn't do it right. And if she just wrote down, I've heard this from many people, if she just wrote down exactly what she wanted me to do, I would gladly do that. But then the wife will counter back and say, I'm not making a checklist. You should just know what to do. There should be some mind reading there. I think it's a resentment over time that women are fed up that their husband isn't providing more with the kids in the household duties, that they feel it weighted on them, where after it's built up for so much time, they accept it and just try to do it all themselves because it's easier than starting an argument. But I think that there's definite blame in the women, too, for letting it get that far and needing things to be so perfect.
Yeah, so the communication needs to happen far before it gets to that point.
Way before. But there's a lot of people at that point. So we need to also help those people of how to start that communication.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So let's not talk about those people. Let's talk about the whole, needing things to be perfect.
Yeah.
From, the guy's perspective. Because, if you're a lady, if you're that lady listening to this, then, or if you're a guy who's just, I know a lot of guys who are type A and say their wives are messy and they have to do the dishes a certain way and all that kind of stuff. It's exactly the same thing. You're missing the whole point. Mm-hmm. You are so obsessed with something that doesn't matter. You're ruining everything. The thing that does matter. You are willing to get into a fight about the way dishes are in, or the way you take a rag and clean the counter. You're willing to go to die on a hill for that while causing a fight with your spouse and ruining the dynamic and energy of the house. What's the thing that matters? It's the energy of the house. Mm-hmm. It's the relationships with your wife and with your kids. So sometimes you have to take the hit, which means allow things not to be perfect. And if things have to be perfect for you, then you're setting yourself up to only exist in a very square box. And if things don't perfectly fit into that square box, you crumble and you destroy everything around you. So sometimes you have to just allow things to be a little messier than they are. If you ask your kids to help you clean, they're not going to clean as good as you can. But what's the point of the whole thing? Back up. What's the point? The point is that your kids are learning to help and clean. So they know they're not going to do it as well. They're going to make mistakes. It's going to take them years to be able to learn. But they have to do it. Making pizza is one of those things. Because I make the best pizza in the world.
True.
And I've got it down. I've been making it for 8 years now?
Yeah.
So craft, homemade, delicious, best pizza in the world. We have pizza oven in my backyard. I know how to make the dough. Sara makes the sauce. We light the fires a specific way. I know everything about the process. It's better than any pizza you guys can make.
It's delicious.
No offense. But, and hey, send me some of your pizza if you disagree. But anyway, like Nathan and Lauren really want to help out with the process. They really want to help out making the dough and making their own pizza. And it's frustrating because I know it's going to screw everything up. And I only have a certain amount of dough balls, and it has to go on the pizza peel a certain way, and you have to move your hand a certain way with the pizza peel so the pizza slides right off, or else if you don't, it's going to stick to the pizza peel, then the whole thing will be done, and your last 10 minutes of work is ruined. Like, to make pizza like that is there's a lot of nuance to it that comes from years of trial and error. It's not like throwing a DiGiorno's pizza into the oven. So one of the things that is going to be cool is that our kids, when they leave us, are going to know how to make unbelievable pizza that they'll be able to share with their families. Like, pizza in our family is a huge part of us. It's like every Sunday we make pizza. It's an hours-long process. It takes the day. Our kids are going to, for their entire lives, are going to think back to their home and remember making pizza in our pizza oven in our backyard. It's like part of who they are. And they're going to be able to take that. They've already said they want to make pizza and have pizza ovens in their own house. So it's like part of our tradition now. So for them to be able to do that, they have to be able to fail for years. And they have to be able to mess up, make life inconvenient, waste my time, ruin dough, and make the process take 10 times longer. But I just have to accept that. I just have to let it happen. I have to let things not be perfect for the overall purpose, the overall point of my kids want to help. My kids want to be part of an awesome family moment. My kids want to be part of this memory. My kids want their future house to have this memory. What an amazing moment. And for me to selfishly say, well, they're messing up this right now. I'm mad right now. I'm missing the point. It's like, I don't know. It's like not going to war because you can't find your shoes. It's like you're focusing on something so small and missing the entire point. So when your spouse is trying to help you, take the win of your spouse is trying to help you.
Yes.
And control yourself. Like, yes, your spouse is trying to help you. Congratulations, you're in the top 10% of couples.
Yeah.
Most people don't do that. Don't then ruin it with the way you're speaking to them, which is that you can be right but wrong at the top of your voice.
Yeah.
Tangent about pizza, but I feel like it was a good example.
I know, now I'm hungry. It's almost lunchtime.
It is.
I think that's really important with just like allowing each other to help. And I love how you said you're in the top 10%. There is a lot of crummy marriages out there. And I think sometimes we get so, we forget what like real life is like. You know, you watch the movies, you read the books, you hear all the love stories, and you always want more and you want more and you want more. And though it does exist, like that love exists, it's there. We have to remember you have your day-to-day life on top of your love. When you're watching the movies and you're reading the books, they're in the perfect setting all the time. And sometimes we fantasize of things that are unrealistic that we forget. Like when you are married to somebody or in a relationship, especially if you live together, you have your normal day-to-day tasks that are going to happen. Kids or no kids, they exist. And you have to be able to figure out how to handle yourself and have the other person inserted in that without it being this whole dramatic thing. It shouldn't always be dramatic. Like you grow up that way, and so you just expect. And I think there's this generational change and shift that we see where like now women, because of the cost of living and that women are in the workforce more now, that like some women, they are the breadwinners of their family, and it still doesn't matter that they're the breadwinner. They're still doing all the stuff at home as well. You know what I mean? So I think we see a different shift of men doing stuff more too, but I think that still happens because men grew up with their dads on the couch. I think that still does exist. Or some women will feel like their husbands are just like too clueless to figure out, like you taking Lauren to the orthodontist, tons of guys that like are my friends' husbands, they wouldn't do that because that would be so much that they just can't even imagine. So
What do you mean it's so much? What does that mean?
they get stressed out having
Guys?
Yeah. Lots of like with kid stuff, like, well, I don't have the insurance. I don't know how to do this. I can't do that. Or like, well, I'm not taking off work. Like there are a lot of people that exist out there. I'm not friends with all those people because that's not my vibe. However, I know it exists. Like I'm positive it exists. That's the woman's job to do the stuff with the kids.
Sorry, guys. It's pathetic if that's you. It's really pathetic.
Yeah. But like, I know that exists out there. And I'm sure the opposite exists where sometimes the guys are doing all the work and like, it could be totally different depending on the circumstance. But I think that there's a huge shift in what we see, whereas a long time ago in the 50s, the women did usually stay home and have to do everything, and that was their job. Their job was to raise the kids, and the dad was fun and did manly things. But then as time got on and women got more into the workforce, I think it became a combined effort with husband and wife both raising kids. And I'm not saying that dads didn't do anything for all the other years, but I think we saw the shift happen where like now in 2024, it's usually the new norm is like you do everything together. You know what I mean? You help each other. You are a team. You raise your kids as a team. It's like a different way, but not everyone is a team, and that's not always happening everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't think every single thing needs to be done together.
I agree.
Like, you can have defined roles.
For sure. And we went over that, though, before we got married, and I think that's something that people don't talk about, too. Do you remember whenever we were engaged?
Oh, yeah, I said, you are going to cook and clean.
No, but...
Oh, yeah. No, what do
I cannot. Whenever we were engaged, we went to, we had, a couple that... What is that called?
Oh, like a marriage counselor thing.
Yeah.
No,
no.
It was like a pre-marriage thing.
Like, not a counselor. I don't know what to call that.
With a Catholic church? Was that what it was?
Yeah, we got married in a Catholic church. So through the church, you had to have these marriage sessions.
Sponsor a couple or something.
Sponsor, that's it. And we had this really great couple. They were really nice. And you kind of had like a workbook that you went through. And you kind of got a lot of hard questions out of the way first. And, at first I was really nervous about this because I am not Catholic. I wasn't raised Catholic. I thought this was going to be very religious. And actually, a lot of it wasn't. It was just the hard questions that nobody goes over before they get married. And one of the questions I remember specifically, we had a whole session on it, was, what are your roles going to be? And we were kind of like, what? And it was like, no, is someone just, their job is always this, and that's just what it is. And there's no question asked. And that way you're not getting in fights over who's doing what. And we went over the roles, and it had all these tasks listed. And you could put both of us, like that it was shared or it didn't matter to us. And one of them specifically was mowing the lawn. And that's Chris's job. He does all the big normal yard work. I don't do yard work. It's not that I can't, I just don't. And we did that. We put that down. Then laundry. I do the laundry. If there's times I'm really behind on laundry, Chris helps with the laundry. He'll switch the laundry. He folds the laundry. If I have a really busy week, I don't even have to ask sometimes. You just do that. I have mowed the lawn a couple of times with Nathan's help, but now it's nice because Nathan has learned.
When did you ever mow the lawn?
When you were away on your business trip to Cabo.
You did.
Yeah, Nathan taught me how to do the front yard. Mm-hmm. And then the battery died multiple times with the lawnmower. But anyways.
Conveniently.
Yeah, so we did go through those tasks. We went through that, and has it stayed true to that for our whole marriage? No, not everything has, but there have been a couple of things that are, we did this, you do this. And
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that sometimes those little daunting things that you don't think matter, if you just have conversations about what your expectations are as a couple.
Could be a simple conversation that could clear up years of tension that's building.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those defined roles, if you didn't have that talk that we did, then you're you see your spouse doing something, you're not doing it, and they're like, well, why aren't they helping? And your spouse that's not doing it is thinking, well, because that's your job, but you guys never talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these stories you create about the other person that the other person doesn't know. So if you would just have a little conversation, you could just clear it up, because maybe you're the one not helping out, and all you have to do is say, hey, like, who's going to do the dishes in the morning, or who's going to take out the trash, or who's going to blank. And if you just, and the other person might get offended, and that's good, because then you realize it's an issue. When you get in these little arguments and fights, it's a good thing. It's a warning sign that, okay, this is something that needs cleared up. Because if you don't have those small arguments, they turn into big fights. And for some people, small arguments turn into big fights and then turn into divorce.
Yeah.
When you could just have a little argument, a little conversation at the beginning. So if you don't have these defined roles in your marriage, hey, today's the day. Have a little conversation. Say, who's going to help out? If you're the wife who you're thinking you're complaining to your friends about how your husband never helps out, how are you saying this to your husband? And when's the last time you said it? Have you ever confronted him on this? Okay, well, today's the day. You need to. Don't just go for a decade being upset and not doing anything, because then it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you do not bring this up, it's your fault, because you're too scared to have the conversation that needs to have, and then you're probably acting passive-aggressively for years, which is causing the marriage to crack and fall apart, instead of just saying, hey, babe, I need some help right now. Can you start helping out? And then if he says no, then you say, okay, well, then now there's something else we need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to actually say something. You need to have a conversation.
And also say it in an appropriate way,
yeah,
too.
There's next thing I get to is do the thing, and then how you say it.
Yes.
You have to, if you say it meanly, if you say it patronizingly, if you say it with a lot of judgment,
yes,
where you're casting, we call it character assassination, where you're saying one thing, but it really is painting the person as a type of person instead of addressing the single situation. You can say, can you please help with the dishes? Or you can say, why do you never get off the couch and help with the dishes? Two very different statements.
Yeah.
You want the person to do the same thing, but it's said different ways, and they have completely different inferences. The second way means you are this kind of person that's a piece of crap. The first one is just, I need your help with this one instance. Like, it's because the way you say the thing really matters. I've also heard that where you might be the lady and you're saying, well, I always ask him to. Yeah, but how are you asking to?
Yes.
Does he want to leave the house and not see you for a week every time you ask him to help? Because the way you say it is so insulting and disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you feel he is not helping you out, you still have to say it in a respectful way. That's what guys want. Like, if you are being actively disrespectful to your husband because of blank, blank, and blank, it's not going to end well. So you have to take the hit and be respectful regardless. And then the husband has to do the same thing.
Yeah. And also, whenever, if they're helping, let's say I love the dishes example, as they're helping, they might say, sure, you can't show them how you want it done either. You just have to let them do it. And over time, if you figure it out together. But there's a lot of people who are such control freaks that's why they say I never get help, but then they want it to be such a specific way, Yeah,
you could be so miserable to work with that
yes.
no one wants to be around you. That's also possible.
Correct. And also usually that can, you need to work on yourself for that. And there's a lot of, moms specifically, I feel like that are that way too, that they've created that version of themselves from holding all this other resentment and really poor communication, where now their kids also aren't learning how to do things because, like you gave the pizza example, they're not willing to just let things be messy for the sake of learning and just let that go. And there is a time and place where sometimes you might have an agenda and be like, okay, we have to be at XYZ at this time. Right now I'm just going to bake these cookies super fast, because we need them for this fundraiser or whatever. but you can help me mix, but then I'm going to do the rest, okay? Sometimes you do have to lay that with your kids, but really there's a lot of people out there that are just so, I need things to be this way, and then they don't speak the right way, and then it also causes a whole other issue.
Yeah, it's just how you say the thing.
Yeah.
You can, even if you're the kind of person that wants things to be done a certain way, that's okay if you're communicating it quickly and correctly. Because you can say, even if you want the dishes done a certain way, like it is possible to ask somebody to do the dishes, but in a certain way, if you say it in the correct way. Like, how would Tony Robbins say this? if or whoever, some influential motivational speaker, like how would they ask their wife to do the dishes? Would they make them feel awful? Would they make them feel judged, like they're stupid? Or would they say it in a warm, loving way? I'm sure there's a way to say it. And that's where it takes a lot of self-reflection, is how am I coming off? What do I sound like when I ask this person to do a certain thing? So like you can still be you, but it's important to monitor the way you're delivering your message. So you have to have some self-reflection. Like, if someone followed me around with a camera and microphone, would I like the video I'm watching? Or would I really dislike that person? Like, if I watched a movie of myself today, would I like that character? Or would I say, that guy's an asshole? Or, man, I'm a bitch? Like, or would you say, I love that character? You're so kind. Doesn't matter. You can never piss him off. You can never make him impatient. Nothing affects him. Nothing phases him. Like, who do you want to be?
I love that. And also, the one thing, too, that I think is important is we're talking about, like, all these chores. I will also hear ladies say things like that they get irritated, and I think husbands and wives both do this, with, like, little teeny things that don't actually matter, but they just form these huge stories throughout over time. For example, like, I wish that they would just put their clothes in the laundry basket and not on the floor next to it, or the cupboard's open, and that we're just talking about like normal things. But, we've been like reading this book and learning different phrases of things. But one thing I really loved, and I think it speaks to both the wife and husband, but mainly to the wives too, is that I think so often we are such in defense mode for ourselves as individuals that we like don't always see our spouse in a positive light. We sometimes just imagine like, they meant to do this to annoy me. For example, like the kitchen cupboards being left open. And you have to realize that's autopilot thinking. Like, you are most likely, whoever leaves those open or puts the clothes next to the laundry basket is not thinking about what they're doing at that time. They're thinking of like 70 different things in their head, and they're grabbing something, they grab it, and they're thinking of something completely different, and it gets left open. Who cares? Just close it when you go by, right? But so many times people make those into these big issues, when really, if you're just thinking of your spouse in a positive light of like, they probably have so much on their mind that they're thinking of right now. Yeah. Just those little tiny things that people pinpoint and nitpick at all the time to narrate more of their story.
Yeah, I think in our men's program and for Rising Fathers called Men of Fire, we've started a marriage call. So once a week, me and Sara host a marriage call, and we talk about issues like this, and couples come on. We've got a lot of couples come on, and we just talk about where we're struggling. We share strategies. We're going to do a marriage retreat, possibly in Mexico in February, which would be awesome. But one of the books we're studying as a group is called Love and Respect. And one of the great things I love that the guy says is he says, a lot of this built up anger towards my wife that I used to have went away when I just started thinking, well, she has the best intentions.
Yes.
Even if it's true or not. You just think, well, she has the best intentions. It's this the way that you can choose to think that influences everything. Same thing as being a positive thinker or a negative thinker. And we just talked about this on our call right before this, is you get to decide your outlook on life. And your outlook on life will impact the 1,000 decisions you make today. So you get to decide how you're going to think about your wife. And that is going to impact the 1,000 interactions you have with her today. If you think she's coming after you, then you're going to speak to her, look at her, and interact with her in a certain way. If you think she wants the best for you, then you're going to literally change your reality and your relationship just by a different point of view.
Yeah, and really, realistically, no matter where you're at in your marriage, deep down, everybody wants the best for their spouse. Regardless of where you're at marriage-wise, you chose each other for a reason. You truly do love each other so much, but that day-to-day grind has gotten in between you. And yes, it's fixable. Like, you just have to realize, I love that you said that you do want the best for your spouse. And so if you start thinking in that way and stop letting all those day-to-day things get in between your relationship, you'll probably automatically see a difference in how you're feeling and speaking to each other. Yeah.
Little outlook that can change everything.
Yeah, totally.
Well, guys, we're going to end it there at about 40 minutes. So hope you enjoyed that. This is Rising Father Podcast. Follow Sara. Sara started her own podcast.
Rise with Sara.
You can find it on Spotify. I think just Spotify right now, right?
And YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube also. So Spotify and YouTube, Rise with Sara. This is Rising Father Podcast. If you have any questions about the men's program or anything like that, let me know. We've got a free training I can give you as well. So thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See ya.